moving around Europe. Just a couple of things to finish the show. We'll start in Germany, where Eric Dyer may be on the move. You've got a Jonathan Tah story as well. And you just mentioned Florian Wirtz, so you can go back to round up what you mentioned early on in terms of how he's not likely to get the City, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah, you can see it on the screen. So I'm lucky. This is Wirtz's comments from this week. Lucky to have so many excellent clubs right on my doorstep. Funny that. And now be able to play for one of the best clubs in Germany and Europe. It's funny how he said his doorstep, because all the reports in Germany are that Florian Wirtz has told Leverkusen he wants to move to Bayern Munich and be their star, which he's a German star. Where do German stars move to? And to be honest, it'll make that league even duller because they'll have Wirtz and Musiala. Do you know what I mean in terms of like the two next German superstars? But everyone fully expects that one to happen. One player that isn't sticking around to see it happen, Eric Dyer. Who would have thought that Eric Dyer, with his ability, would be playing for Bayern Munich and Monaco at this stage of his career? But that's where he's off to Monte Carlo to maybe enjoy a Grand Prix and concede goals there. So that's where Eric is off to. And then speaking of centre-halves, Jonathan Tah. So a name that's liked by a lot of clubs, will be on a free. Yeah, Barcelona are looking at him, but we know Barcelona's interest and troubles. We know as well that Manchester United are looking at him. So it's ultimately up to Jonathan Tah as a centre-half to pick where does he want to end up. But plenty happening in Germany at the moment.
Well, it's hard to believe some of the options available to some of these guys. Many moons ago, Jonathan Tah to Liverpool was a thing for some people, but that's a long way away now. We'll do Real Madrid next, because in the Konate story, there was a link to how Real wanted Konate and Saliba. You can only imagine the crying in North London if that occurred. Is there anything to this, do you think?
All the Spanish reports would have you believe that. You can't get anything in the UK, being honest, people, when we tried to sort of dig into this. But plenty of discussion on the continent and rumours this way. The only thing for this is, as you've mentioned recently, there's a lot of reports coming out today that Real have now advanced or are trying for Dean Huijsen, which, let's be honest, Huijsen is cheaper. Huijsen is Spanish, so would count as homegrown for them as well. And it's Huijsen's dream move. We don't really know, do we, about Saliba? And also, I just happen to think that Saliba is the most overrated defender in world football. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but Gabriel's always the better one of the two. And we've seen it in the Champions League that without him, Saliba's looked a little bit suspect. Just my opinion on that as well. And it's interesting. They're clearly looking at centre halves that we know, unfortunately, Konate's in the mix. They're looking at him on a potential free. So if I had to bet, and I don't say this with great confidence, but I think Madrid for Huijsen is more likely than Saliba. But we'll have to see what this summer brings.
And to finish up then, our last story is obviously Saudi related. We save it to last most of the time because it has obviously got the great potential to be the great disruptor. Some of these windows have not proven to be the case, but it does feel like there's a big one in the offing. And there's at least one massive Premier League star that is being linked with a move there. If not quite in his prime, not far off it. And we know as well that there is interest in talent across the board, not just in the players, but in managers as well. So walk us through the latest Saudi news.
Yeah, this Club World Cup just has a real potential to be a massive disruptor, doesn't it? And the Saudis really want to make a splash at this. So Al Hilal will be there, have been linked with, as it says on the screen there, Marco Silva, former Everton, current former Fulham head coach. So they are looking for a high-profile person to be in charge there. So it is interesting. Also, This was insane when we saw it, but even his agents come out and spoken on it. Saudi clubs ahead of the Club World Cup looking at Bruno Fernandez. Rattigan himself, the legendary captain who, throws his arms up and all that. But apparently scoring a few goals in the Europa League. I mean, Trev, the reports on this, that they're prepared to go big. If Manchester United can somehow con over 100 million quid out of the Saudis for Bruno Fernandez, they should drive him there on the 1st of June, literally. And I know they could even get the Champions League route through winning the Europa. But, I mean, he's 29, nearly 30, isn't he, Fernandez, as well? We know all the question marks about his attitude, but they have the potential for a very short period of time. They could be our transfer window sparkler, is the way I'm going to phrase it. Burn brightly and burn fast for that transfer window one, because they've got that Club World Cup in mind. And I just think for a very short period, and we like it, they've got a chance to be proper disruptors in this system.
So we've done it. I think we've gotten through all the stories you want to get through, but you usually have at least one thing up your sleeve, or at least one thing that you want to clarify before we do wrap it up. So I'm going to leave the last word to you, my friend.
This is going to sound weird, but this Liverpool now is completely different to when Jurgen Klopp was in charge of recruitment. And that's not being derogatory. I adore Klopp. He's an absolute hero of mine, but the style and the way it was done. What I mean by this, people, is if you think about Jurgen Klopp style recruitment towards the end, it was limited players of a similar profile or nothing, wasn't it? It was, we want Caicedo. No, not going to get him. Okay, Lavia, no. It was a physical number 6. And he settled on Endo because, that was in his list or acceptable for him. There was no real bending on that. What we're hearing now is, and it comes back to something I said last week, Trev, as well. The only thing I'm certain of, even in that forward line, is that Darwin Núñez is off. That's the only thing you can be certain. There's almost, it's probably a better word than this, but there's contingencies on top of contingencies. We said it the other week, like Isak, top target, Alvarez now in the mix. They want an elite striker. If they can't get that, the contingency, as they said, will be they'll look at someone who can play wide, but also could move up top and look at options that way. And we mentioned the name last week. I'm not surprised this summer if Liverpool buy someone who's maybe, their 4th choice preference or 4th choice option in a position that they are looking at a lot of options. And looking at a lot of options doesn't mean signing a lot of players. Of course it doesn't. But all the noises are, we're trying not to use this phrase, Trev, but how can we not talk about a big summer? Simple as that.
Probably because we've spoken about war chests in the past, and that's been very painful. But look, all the signs are there that we have stuff to do. So hopefully a lot of it will get done. And you can rely on myself and Dave to walk you through whatever the hell we have been hearing. And Dave hears a lot from a lot of different places. He's always on the hunt for news, and it makes this show what it is. So thanks to Dave for that, as usual. Thanks to you if you've been listening and watching live. Thanks for your contributions in the chats. And just let's enjoy what's left of this season with all the potential that lies ahead. Good luck.